It's now time for my review of the cheaper model of the Realme 8 series. So the Realme 8, this one is again another minor change over the Realme 7. We have a different look to it, so they've changed the camera module and they've upgraded the main camera from 48 megapixels now to 64, and yes, it does take a slightly better photo. And we do have this look with the big, huge slogan there, the company slogan on the back, the Dare to Leap, which I'm not a huge fan of, and all models do have this. And it's a lightweight plastic design that I'm quite fond of. It's good. And the screen is the other huge change, well, big change. No longer is it an IPS, we had a 90 Hz IPS, and we've gone for a downgrade in the refresh rate, but an upgrade in the screen brightness and overall quality. This Full HD AMOLED does output up to 1000 nits, is their claim. It is bright, it's a great screen, it's flat, it has an in-screen fingerprint reader, and the mobile is all powered by the Helio G95, so no change there. The G95 was in the Realme 7. We have the same 5000 mAh battery. We have 128 GB storage, UFS 2.1, 6 to 8 GB of RAM. This review unit that I was sent by Realme has the 8 GB of RAM and 30-watt fast charging. Inside the box, you'll find a TPU case in a smoky grey color. It fits the phone perfectly. Our Type-C to Type-A cable, SIM tray tool, quick start guide, important information, and the charger. So this one is 30 watts and it will take around 70 minutes to fully charge the 5000 mAh battery. So looking now at our build of this one, the Realme 8 does feel good in hand. Now it's 177 grams and around about 8 millimeters thick. So on the upper left-hand side here, we have our SIM tray that takes 2 nano SIMs and a micro SD card. And the thickness is good and it curves away the edge. Now the back on this is plastic, and I do like the look of the design now that they've gone with the camera module change here, grouped them into 4. However, I am not really into this at all, this big, huge Dare to Leap in the standout color. Now this they call the Cyber Silver. I do like it, I like the finish of it. It is glossy and you can see a few fingerprints on it. But to me, just being a mobile billboard walking around with their slogan, I hope that future models, they will remove this and just keep the Realme. That's fine. I mean, most other brands will have their name on the back of their phone, but not these huge letters here. But that's just me. So with our cameras, we have a big change here that the main camera is now 64 megapixels, up from the 48 on the Realme 7. But we still have the same 8 megapixel sensor, f2.4 aperture, and then two 2 megapixel cameras. Now the main camera aperture, this one is 1.79, and there'll be some samples later on in this review. Dual tone LED flash, and the buttons on the right, they are made out of plastic. The frame around this phone is plastic as well, but it does feel good in hand. I've got easy access to those buttons. So in-screen fingerprint reader, this one I find is working for me so much better than the Realme 8 Pro, and I don't know why. It's the same hardware. Perhaps I have a fault with my unit, or it's just in need of a software update. And I have added this fingerprint to the Pro. I've added the same thumbprint 2 or 3 times, and it's still not getting this kind of result. Face unlocking does work really good with this particular model. And the screen, so this is now an AMOLED, Super AMOLED panel, very good brightness, over 890 nits. And we do have, well, the bezels around the outside, they're not the slimmest, nor is the chin down the bottom. But it's a welcome change from the IPS. However, no longer is it 90 Hz like that IPS panel on the Realme 7. This one's 60 Hz. Down the bottom, the single loudspeaker, so no dual loudspeakers sadly with this. The Type-C port is USB 2, it does not support video out, nor would I expect that with a budget phone like this. 3.5mm headphone out, that does sound quite good. Good quality out of it, good loudness as well. Microphone there, and there is a secondary mic at the top for noise cancellation. So yes, this model has noise cancellation, and it's also used for stereo in video. So this is the big change of this model, along with the camera. The two only real changes from the Realme 7. They are just small real spec upgrades, but the screen at this price point, for the fantastic price that this phone's selling for, is good. Very, very nice screen here. Super AMOLED. Now the brightness I'm measuring is close to 900 nits. I'm getting about 890 nits. Officially they claim 1000 nits is the maximum brightness out of this screen. So we have uniformed colors. We don't have any problems around the cutout or the edges, with it having like a bit of a shadow coming through, or dimmer pixels that we would with an IPS panel. It is a good panel. It looks great, and I'm happy that they've gone with AMOLED. The only thing, my only criticism here is I really wish that it at least had a 90 hertz refresh rate, or even the Pro model. The Pro model should have had the 90 hertz, and maybe they could have gone with just the 60, which they do have in this. Still, it's falling behind a little with the refresh rate. Touch response is 180 hertz, and I do find the touch response is great. Triggering gestures, not a problem with this particular screen. And out in direct sunlight, I can make it out quite easily, thanks to that 900 nits of brightness. Now, my title of this video is not clickbait. This is one of the main reasons why I like the Realme 8 better than the 8 Pro, which is right here. I find the fingerprint readers better, but I also find the UI and overall performance, just your general phone use, does feel a lot smoother, quicker, and better animations on the Helio-powered the G95 Realme 8. It just is so much smoother. You might be able to see this coming through, but it's just a much better experience, especially when triggering gestures and multitasking. I noticed that it's faster and more fluid on the Realme 8 versus the 8 Pro. Now, the 8 Pro is the one to go for if you want that 108 megapixel, much better main camera, but the 64 megapixel one that's in this, as you see later on, can still take a very good day shot. It does need a little bit of work with the nighttime, as you'll see later on, but even then, animations, and it was just more fluid and smoother coming through on the Realme 8. Now, the Realme 8 has 8 gigabytes RAM, 128 gigabytes of UFS 2.1 storage. So does this model here. So in that regard, they're the exact same spec, but this is one of the key reasons why I like the Realme 8. And it's also a lot cheaper. Battery life, very important. So if you want the best battery life, the 5000 milliamp hour battery doesn't actually give us the best battery life out of the Realme 8 Pro and the Realme 8. You can see this difference. Now, it's barely anything. We're talking about an hour. An hour's difference with a fixed benchmark here is not really a lot at all. Even though this has 4,500 milliamp hours and this one 5,000, yes, it goes a little bit better. So the Snapdragon 720G is a more efficient chip, slightly more efficient. Now, real world use, you're looking at about 8 to 9 hours of on-screen time out of these phones. For most people, it will be a 2-day phone before you need to charge it, which is great. Now, the charge time on this phone here is 70 minutes. Well, they claim 65 minutes. I'm getting more like 70, so there's not much in it. 70 minutes for the Realme 8, and for the Realme 8 Pro, I measured 39 minutes. So it's, yes, quicker there, but I don't think too many people are going to be bothered about that. Camera 2 API level 3 support, Widevine level 1 support, so Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, Disney Plus, Full HD for those, which is good. And the wireless. So wireless speeds are very similar to what I'm getting on the Realme 8 Pro as well. They're not too different. We can see that one's a little faster. This is a difference in the chipset. So if that's very important to you, maybe another reason to go for the 8 Pro. But again, there's not really too much in it. At the same point, we're looking at a difference of about 30 megabits per second. And this one you can see was 182 there, or 194 top kind of speed. So not a lot in it. Really, that's not enough for me to want to get one phone or the other or pay the extra for that. Now, GPS is a different story here. That GPS with the Qualcomm chips is limited to 3 meters of accuracy. This is some sort of law that they have. They have some sort of agreement. I think it's with the US government that it couldn't be any more accurate. Otherwise, it needs to be classified as military GPS and not civilian. So you can see here that even though the accuracy is 1 meter, there is a key difference here. If GPS is very important to you, you look at the average signal strength, and you can see it's locked onto more satellites, well, almost the same number, but at a higher and better signal strength. So that is a difference there. So when I walked around the house and things like that and went out to the street, I did notice that GPS, even though the accuracy is less, is better on the Snapdragon 720G versus the Helio G95. So if that's important to you, make sure you make the right choice there. Internal storage, so both of them have UFS 2.1 storage, and they both have very, very similar speeds, and these speeds are good. These are good here. They're not going to be holding up this particular phone, and you can see on the Pro model here, it does get better random writes, but this one has better sequentials, so only slightly better. So very, very close there. Again, really not enough in it to make your decision on those kind of things there. Now, Antutu scores. This is, well, different here. Look at the difference. You can see it's actually coming through better, the GPU score on the G95. And this does reflect my gaming. I've noticed that gaming on both of them, you need to use lower settings on demanding games, and I'll get onto that later. But gaming, I definitely feel this difference too, that games do feel smoother on the Realme 8 versus the 8 Pro to me. So that's another choice. If you game a lot, I would go for the Realme 8. And considering the fact that it's cheaper, the same screen, you're only really gaining the better camera and the faster charge time, really, on the Realme 8 Pro. So free storage, you will have approximately 111 gigabytes on first boot. What about bloatware? There is a bit of bloatware. And at the time of this video, I'm on the latest ROM, latest firmware update. There will be one coming soon that is going to add Starry mode, but sadly I didn't get it in time for my review. So there we can see the bloatware that they have on this. So there are a few apps, and I counted around about like 9 or 10 different bloatware things. So it's creeping in there, and I hope they don't keep adding more bloatware to their Realme UI 2 that this is running. Onto the audio performance. So we do have analog 3.5 out that remains in their budget lineup of phones, and I'm really thankful for this because I still love my 3.5 mini audio. Sounds good, good loudness to it, it's clean, it's maybe not the best I have heard, but for the price, it's fine. Now, there is a single loudspeaker down here, sadly no loudspeaker in the top, which would have been nice to add to immersion, especially when gaming, and just for when you're watching media and content, it would be just better because it would be slightly louder. So the volume is okay, I've heard louder, and there's a hint of bass and some mids there. It's overall an average loudspeaker. Here's a sample at 100% volume. And onto Genshin Impact performance. So this is a very demanding title, and I have it set on the low setting, 60 frames per second. And yes, it's playable. You do notice, however, though, a few little lags and stutters here and there. But my overall experience is that this is smoother than the Snapdragon 720G that is in the Realme 8 Pro. So it's another reason why I actually like this model a little bit better if you're not too fussed about the main camera and then the charging time that is. A good performance. Just expect those lags, and with demanding titles like this one, do lower those settings down to make sure everything's going to be playable. And remember, I have the 8 gigabytes of RAM. Let's have a look now at PUBG performance. And sadly with PUBG, we are locked with this one to 30 frames per second with the frame rates. Just high setting only and HD only that allows me to choose with this chipset. So that is the developers there limiting this performance, because to me, clearly this game could run close to 60 frames per second on a lower setting. So that is a shame there for PUBG players out there, because, someone's shooting at me. Must be a bot, if I managed to get them so easy. Clearly that one's a bot. And now after 1 hour of gaming, how warm is it going to get? So I'm seeing about 46 degrees almost on the front of the phone, and the back of it, that is getting up to the hot patch right here, about 42, so a little bit cooler, 43, almost 44 on the rear of the phone. So this is about 2 degrees warmer than the Realme 8 Pro, so there's almost nothing in it. Moving over to our cameras now, so with the front-facing 16 megapixel camera, just like the 8 Pro, we have 1080p maximum, and it doesn't seem to have any electronic image stabilization. It shakes around a little bit here, which is a shame. I hope they can add this with a firmware update. The quality is okay, I have seen better. Now the field of view, my arm is now fully extended, so you can fit quite a bit into the shot at least. Let's take a look now at what the rear cameras can do with video. Ultra-wide footage here, so this has some very light electronic image stabilization that's not the best I have seen. Now the ultra-wide camera only allows us to shoot 1080p 30 max. We get 4K 30 with electronic image stabilization, only with the main camera. 4K video now, so this has some very weak electronic image stabilization. It's not the best I've seen, but at least it has something. So what you're looking at here is called the Iron Tower. This is a 16th century coastal defense. Now with the camera, I cannot swap over to the ultra wide. I can't swap over and do anything else apart from digital zoom, which I can tap and go 2 times here, as you can see. A little bit of a look down the rugged coast here, very beautiful. And back to that 1 time. So the audio bitrate with this is 288 kilobits per second. Normally with Realme, it is 320. So as you can see from those night shots that clearly optimization is needed. That is probably the biggest downfall of this particular mobile, is the night shots aren't so great. Some of the stills need a bit of optimization, I feel. The video quality is lacking, the electronic image stabilization, the front-facing camera there. But the rest of it, the package is good, especially for the price it sells for. So fantastic price, great pricing, and we've got great battery life, decent performance from the ROM. Gaming performance is better than the Pro. Overall, for me, the ROM feels so much smoother. When you get these two phones side by side, my experience with the 8 Pro, the cheaper model, is just a more fluid ROM. And that's where I believe that most people should go for this one, because it just feels overall, your day-to-day tasks are just better, smoother, and that is a more pleasant experience. The fingerprint unlocking for this model here has been far superior, and I haven't had any issues. I think there could be something wrong with my 8 Pro, or it just needs a software update. This fingerprint reader is only working about 70% of the time for me, or I have to go and redo it and get it to scan my thumb again, and then it unlocks. Where this one seems to be 10 out of 10 times, unlocks very quick. So the screen, very nice AMOLED screen, super bright. You can see it in daylight, 1000 nits. It's only 60 Hertz though. So if they'd gone with 90 Hertz or above, that would have been really good, or even put that in the Pro model, which sadly they haven't. So it's a very minor tweak of the Realme 7, and overall it's an all-rounded great phone, and I do like this one. And as mentioned, I think it's the model to go for if the rest of the things that I mentioned are important to you apart from the camera. So if you want the best camera, the 108 megapixel main camera, you're looking at these two models, clearly it is better, and the better digital zoom comes from this model. Slightly faster charging, marginally better battery life, and I'm talking about a difference of, well, nothing, about 30 minutes on-screen time between these two is really what you're looking at. And the screens are the same screen, same AMOLED, same 60 Hertz, same about 1000 nits brightness, and it's just that performance that makes me lean towards and recommend the Realme 8 over the 8 Pro. So thank you so much for watching this review, and I do hope to see you back in the channel. Do subscribe for more videos if you like this style of review, and do check out my review of the Realme 8 Pro if you're interested, of course.